What if I told you that you could 4x your productivity thanks to a piece of paper? I know it sounds silly, but this is exactly what people call Sam Evans' secret. And Sam Evans, by the way, is the co-founder of School.com and is also the entrepreneur who has built and sold multiple companies like Consulting.com for millions of dollars. And it's also so incredibly powerful that I myself have used this as of today exactly 400 times. I just hit 400. And if you're an entrepreneur, in that case, if you're an entrepreneur and you would like to be more productive, and especially if you sometimes feel lost or maybe you procrastinate and you lack clarity like I did a couple of years ago, then in today's video, I'm going to show you how following these 3 simple steps has allowed me to get more meaningful work done in 1 week than I used to do in 1 month. And to do that, I'll walk you through these 3 steps, and they are what I call the SRE system. And it's super simple. And that's exactly why it's powerful, because it's simple. But I do want to be clear that just because it's simple does not mean it's easy. Because for this whole piece of paper thing to work, which is number 3, we have to start with number 1 and 2. Because this is not a quick fix, what I'm about to show you. This is not a hack. It's not a shortcut. So we have to start with the fundamental thing. And to do so, let me first of all tell you a quick story to make all of this make sense. And well, a couple of years ago, how my schedule looked was that I would wake up at 6 a.m. every day, including weekends and Sundays even. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., go on a 5-mile run, come back, take a freezing cold shower, run ads for my clients for a few hours, take a break for lunch, then stand and do cold calls, so outreach, for around about 8 hours or so. Of course, with maybe some breaks to the bathroom, but that's about it. And then after those 8 hours, I would eat another meal and then sit and do 3 hours of group coaching, and then go to sleep and maybe get 6 hours if I was lucky. And so altogether, I was working 14-hour days, 6 days a week. And in the end, I was just asking myself, how can I get more done? How can I get more done? And that may be the question that maybe you are asking yourself. How can I get more done? But then eventually I realized that I was working so hard yet barely even moving. I was like a car spinning my wheels. That's how I felt. I just felt stuck. And eventually I realized the problem there was that first of all, instead of trying to do more done and asking, how can I do more? The question I should have asked myself was, how can I do the right things? And am I even doing the right things? And well, number 3 is going to be about getting more of the right things done, but to know what the right things are, we have to start with this, number 1. And number 1 is C. The S stands for C. And this is about having a vision. And let me explain. So Seneca said, a couple thousand years ago actually, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. And so this is like sailing your ship, but you have no idea where you truly even want to go. So you tell all your crew to, handle these tasks, to maybe set up your website or on the ship, mop the floor and do this and that. And by the end of the day, you've handled 10 tasks, yet you feel like you've barely moved. And the reason was in my case, is that I didn't truly begin with the end in mind. I didn't start with what I truly wanted to create, with a vision for my life and business. And I know this sounds simple, and that's because it is. But once again, it's not easy. Because I thought I knew what I wanted, because I use Notion. It's a good site for my vision and for the system that I'm going to walk you through with number 2. But the thing is, it's like we have loads of layers. And what I thought I wanted was here, but I wasn't actually truly pursuing my goals. I thought I wanted to achieve these goals, and specifically it was about nice watches and apartments in London or various places, but I don't truly even care about those things so much. I wear this watch because I got it from my parents for my birthday, but I had, Rolexes and so on my vision. That's not truly what matters to me. And yet I thought it was, and so I steered my ship in that direction, but it wasn't truly what I wanted, so actually it didn't matter how fast or how hard I worked and how fast I moved my ship if I was moving in the wrong direction in the first place. And what I find is the case for many entrepreneurs is that maybe for them it's much different than what was for me. Maybe they want to hit big performance targets and annual revenue goals, or maybe even quarterly sales goals. But realistically, deep down, maybe it's not really truly what aligns with the company vision and what aligns with you. Or if maybe if you're not running a company with a big team, if you're a solopreneur, then maybe once again you're just, chasing these goals that you think you want to achieve, but it's not truly where you want to go. And quite often we reach these ports, but then we still feel empty. And the reason for that is because once again we've not gotten to the root layer, or the core layer, I should say, and discovered what we truly want. So the lesson here is to really take some time and to really question what you truly want to create. Because what you decide you want to create in your life, in your mind, that's what will determine what actions you take. And if we're not honest with ourselves as to what we actually want to create, then the actions are going to leave us, and the results are going to leave us feeling empty. And, well, that's that. And to be clear, this is not going to come instantly, because as I found in my journey was that I had to strip away layer after layer until I got to the core. And that really does take some time. So that takes a lot of reflecting. And then once we actually do have the vision and we're very clear on what we want to create, because as Stephen Covey says, everything is created twice. Once in the mind and for the second time in reality. And by the way, every single action we take we take it to achieve a certain goal, whether we realize that or not. Because sometimes we unconsciously act to achieve things, and sometimes we consciously act. And it's up to us to be intentional and conscious with what we do and to make sure it aligns with what we truly want. And by the way, how this ties to this one, for example, is recently I filmed a video on lining up your dominoes, I called it. And all the tasks that you can handle in a single day are like the little dominoes. But quite often it's only one crucial task or domino that aligns with your big domino. And your big domino is your life vision. And we feel drained often because we're trying to topple over all these random dominoes, but because we've not started with the big domino, our vision, we have no idea which domino actually aligns with the big domino, and so is actually the most important task. Some other dominoes, fall over and give us a quick slam, which feels satisfying, but it's not actually even the domino that we should be toppling over that aligns with our vision. So that's that. Start with a clear vision of what you want to build. And then number 2 is the review. And Socrates said, once again, over a couple thousand years ago, the unexamined life is not worth living. And the point here is that if we're not doing a review, if we're not reviewing how things are going and we're not pivoting, that's like not steering your ship. Maybe you go to the helm and you steer and you choose a direction and then you just leave it and hope for the best, then, do you really think you're going to get there without constantly being at the helm and, pivoting or iterating or just changing direction? Probably not. And yet, that's what most of us do when we create plans. We create plans to achieve our vision and then just leave them and just do nothing else. We just follow those plans and hope for the best. That, once again, is like steering your ship in the beginning and then just leaving it and then hoping for the best. That rarely works. And that's why Dwight Eisenhower said, I think it's Dwight Eisenhower, it may be someone else, but I hope it is him. He said, plans are nothing, planning is everything. And so the point is there that plans often don't go to plan. They usually don't. But the only value is in planning because you think ahead, but then you want to keep showing up and then actually checking on that plan, steering your ship. And so that's why I value having systems over plans and strategies over plans. Because very simply put, a plan is a preordained map or checklist that you follow to achieve something. It's like you choose a straight line and then you hope everything goes perfectly straight. Whereas having a strategy is basically about constantly putting yourself in better positions than you were in before. That's all it is, very simply. So instead of going from one place to another in one straight line, you constantly make sure you're moving in the right direction without hoping that you are. You know that you are because you keep checking. And so to make this practical, I once again use Notion. You can use whatever you like, but I use Notion, and in there I have a template where I do monthly and the weekly reviews. At the end of each month and at the end of each week, I go in there and I ask myself questions like, and by the way, I'll mention how this ties into number 3 very shortly. I ask myself questions like, what worked well this week or this month? What didn't work so well? What will success look like for me at the end of next week or next month? What observations did I make? Am I measuring what truly matters? If not, why? And questions like that to make sure everything is on track. And now let me tie this into number 3. And this is where you actually do the needle moving. And this is what people call Samavin's secret. And to start with a quote from Thoreau, which this one's not from a couple thousand years ago, he said, "It is not enough to be busy, so are the ants. The question is, what are we busy about?" And so this one is about being intentional. And we can only execute on the right things if we started with number 1. And to finally reveal the secret for you that I've been talking about this whole time, very simply put, Samavins constantly keeps beside him, I've heard, either a piece of paper or a journal, and he's laid out his tasks for the day, and so he can be super intentional. If he ever gets off track or distracted, he can look back at his piece of paper and get straight back on task. And I know that sounds super simple, because it is, but there's a little bit more nuance to that. And really, the point is, by the way, I do this in my journal, and the reason I have written times 400, and I mentioned I've done this 400 times, is because yesterday I just did my 400th entry. And not in here, by the way, this is like my 10th journal or something. But basically, the night before, I write down the most crucial tasks for the day ahead. And this is very, very different from a task list. Very different. Because instead of asking myself and writing down all the things I could do or maybe would do if so and so, instead I ask myself, what if I could do only one thing tomorrow that would move me closer to my vision, what would it be? And because I have to choose one crucial needle-moving thing, I absolutely make sure that I'm not handling all these random tasks like mopping the floor on the ship. Maybe that needs done once every while, but I'm making sure I'm showing up to adjust the sails. So this part is about, in our analogy, adjusting your sails. And if you're not clear, if you don't tell your crew what actually matters and what port you're trying to go to, then they're going to have no idea when to adjust the sails or in which direction. And so they may be running around like headless chickens, like we often end up doing, handling random tasks, not doing what truly matters. And so what I do is I write down my one crucial task for the day ahead, which I write a little circle next to, so I know that I absolutely have to check that off. And that's my crucial one, which for today is, for example, to prepare and film this video for you. And then I write down if I have an extra couple tasks, I just write them with a bullet point, which means I still will get them done, but they're not absolutely crucial, and I know that I have to tackle this most important one first. And that's crucial because our willpower actually kind of depletes throughout the day. So we want to tackle our hardest, most important task first. And so for me, that looked like this. I prepared for this video, so I wrote the outline first, and then now I'm filming for you. And then I have another couple tasks, like post in my community actualizer, and then reply to the people that I will be replying to today. But this is extremely simple, but the crucial thing, I keep saying crucial, is to actually number your tasks in order of importance. So instead of writing down loads of tasks, I first of all choose the most crucial needle-moving tasks, and then for the rest of them, I number them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. And it's my personal principle, and I recommend you do the same, that I never start a task without a clear intention. Which means if I start any project or any task, I first of all step back and I write down my intentions, what I want to achieve, and I break that down into the smallest steps possible. And when it comes to the review, by the way, I didn't mention, weekly and monthly, I also set myself action goals. And these are not goals like hit a certain amount of revenue. You can still hit, write a target like that. That's a target. But I write action goals. And the reason for that is because entrepreneurs, and I fell for this, by the way, and this really made me feel lost. Many entrepreneurs set themselves targets like that to hit a certain amount of revenue, for example, and they attach their happiness to that outcome. And so if they don't achieve it, they're left feeling unhappy. And even if they do achieve it, then once again, they base their happiness on it, which is still an issue, because it's like they're chasing a dangling carrot. And that's exactly what I did. And if we don't get the carrot, then we feel unhappy. Whereas if we set action tasks, which are action goals, then we make sure that this is something we have control over. And basically what you want to do is you want to ask yourself what action goals will make hitting my target inevitable. And then you focus on the actions. And so altogether, this is extremely simple. And to run this all off, I have a quote here written from Thomas Edison. He said, "If we did all the things we are capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves." And I hope that all of this helps you actually be able to achieve what you are capable of doing, and so you can astound yourself. I wish you all the best, and as always, remember, it's already there within you. If you'd like any more help or guidance, I have my community below, but whatever you decide to do, once again, I wish you all the best. Ciao.